Thinking about buying a used motorcycle? Hit the brakes, because one bad decision can leave you with a money pit instead of your dream ride. From shady titles to ticking engines, we're breaking down 7 things you must check before you buy. Miss one, and you could seriously regret it. Number 7. Make a realistic budget. This is the first and most important step in buying a used motorcycle, and it's the step most people mess up before they even start. Setting a realistic cash-based budget does more than just help you narrow down your options. It protects you from falling into a financial hole when the real costs start piling up. And believe me, they will. Let's get one thing straight. Your budget is not just the sticker price you see on the Craigslist ad. Your real budget includes title transfer fees, taxes, registration, and insurance. It also includes essentials like a new helmet if yours is outdated or unsafe, maybe a riding jacket, gloves, boots, and sometimes even the cost of a motorcycle safety course if you're just getting started or want a refresher. Oh, and don't forget the motorcycle itself might need new tires, a chain, fluids, or brake pads immediately after you get it home. Here's a good rule of thumb. Whatever the asking price of the bike is, you should have at least 20 to 25% more saved in cash to cover everything else. So if you're looking at a motorcycle listed for $4,000, you should aim to have $5,000 ready. If you can't swing that, you're not ready to buy. It's that simple. You also want that money in cash, or at least in your checking account ready to go. Most private sellers aren't taking checks, Venmo, or "I swear I'll get you next week, bro." They want green paper with dead presidents on it. Financing is tough on used bikes, especially older ones, and unless you're working with a credit union that specializes in vehicle loans, it's usually more hassle than it's worth. Plus, financing a used motorcycle means you're paying interest on something that might need major repairs anyway. When it comes to budgeting, the best way to avoid future heartache is to buy something you can truly afford, not just something you want. That means don't stretch your wallet thin just to get the latest sport bike with a flashy paint job. Because if you buy a bike you can barely afford, you're going to cry when you realize it needs a new rear tire and chain within the first month. And you're flat broke. If you can't afford a set of tires, an oil change, and a tune-up after the sale, then you flat out cannot afford that bike. Another tip? Don't forget to factor in fuel costs and insurance premiums, especially if you're looking at higher displacement motorcycles. A liter bike might sound like a dream, but the insurance premium could punch you in the face harder than the throttle ever will. Call your insurance provider before you buy the bike, not after. You don't want to find out that it costs $1,500 a year to insure your dream ride when you're already signing the title. Finally, give yourself a firm spending limit and write it down. Put it in your phone. Tell your riding buddies to hold you to it. When you're excited and staring at a shiny machine in the seller's driveway, it's way too easy to get swept up in the moment and fork over more cash than you should. Don't do it. Stick to your number. Now let's talk about mileage. It's not the death sentence you think it is, but it can be a warning sign. Number 6. Don't freak out about mileage. Let's set the record straight right now. High mileage does not automatically mean a motorcycle is a ticking time bomb. Some of the best bikes on the road today have odometers that rolled well past the 40,000 mile mark years ago. In fact, the mileage number alone is probably one of the least important things to focus on when you're buying used. What matters far more is how that motorcycle was treated between mile 1 and mile 40,000. Was it babied by a careful weekend rider who kept up with regular maintenance? Or was it thrashed to redline every morning by a guy who thought warming up the engine was a myth? Start your mileage inspection with service intervals. Most motorcycles, especially performance-oriented or large displacement models, require valve adjustments every 12,000 to 24,000 miles. If the bike you're eyeing has racked up a ton of mileage and no one's touched the valves, that's a red flag. The good news? Many sellers who care about their bikes will proudly share maintenance history. If they've got receipts, logs, or even notes scribbled in the owner's manual, that's a good sign. Documentation, even if it's casual, shows that the owner cared enough to track what was done. Next, look closely at the drive system. On chain-driven motorcycles, the condition of the chain and sprockets tells you a lot. If the chain is dry, rusted, kinked, or has uneven slack, it's been neglected, and that raises questions about the rest of the bike's upkeep. Chains should be lubricated regularly and adjusted within specification. A sloppy chain setup might just be the tip of the maintenance iceberg. Belt-driven and shaft-driven bikes have their own indicators. Cracks in a belt or leaks near a shaft drive housing are signs of trouble, but also opportunities to negotiate. Fluids are another vital checkpoint. Ask when the oil was last changed and what oil was used. Was it a basic generic brand or a manufacturer-recommended synthetic? Check the sight glass or dipstick to see if the oil is clean and at the proper level. Look at the coolant and brake fluid too. Cloudy or discolored fluids usually mean the bike's been sitting or that basic service has been ignored. While those are relatively easy fixes, they're strong clues about the owner's habits. And don't forget the tires. They don't just tell you how soon you'll need to open your wallet, they also tell you how the bike was used. Are the edges rounded off from relaxed cruising, or are they sharp from track days and aggressive cornering? Any uneven wear might suggest poor suspension setup or worn-out components. Check the manufacture date on the sidewall. If the tires are more than 5 years old, budget for replacements, even if there's still tread left. You'll also want to take a look at the brake system. Spongy levers or discolored fluid mean it's time for a flush. Pads that are too worn or oddly uneven might indicate a stuck caliper or warped rotor. These are issues that can add up quickly, so factor them into your decision or negotiation. So instead of focusing on the odometer alone, dig deeper. A high-mileage bike that's been babied will outperform a low-mileage garage queen that's been ignored. Coming up next is a tip that could save you from buying someone else's disaster on wheels before you even see the bike in person. If this feels like a lot to keep track of, it is, but that's exactly why we break it down this way. So hit subscribe now and like this video. Number 5. Always make a list of options. When you're shopping for a used motorcycle, it's easy to get tunnel vision. You see one listing, your heart starts pounding, and suddenly you're imagining yourself cruising down the highway like it's already yours. That emotional high is exactly what can blind you to problems. Maybe the seller ghosted you. Maybe the bike has zip ties where the wiring harness should be, or maybe the seat smells like mildew and broken dreams. Whatever the case, the first rule is simple. Do not fall in love with a listing. This is why making a list of backup bikes is critical. Think of it like dating. Just because someone shows up wearing a leather jacket doesn't mean they're the one. You need fallback options, because chances are that first listing is going to disappoint you. You'll show up to a driveway expecting a clean, gently ridden machine and find something that looks like it's been in a Mad Max chase scene. Having multiple bikes lined up gives you leverage. It gives you time, and most importantly, it gives you sanity. Now let's break it down. Before you go see any bike, make a spreadsheet. Seriously, create a list with key information. Year, model, mileage, asking price, and location. Include contact info and any red flags. List how long it's been posted. Is the description too vague? Are the photos blurry or taken at night? These are signs. Track this stuff. You're buying a machine that can cost thousands and take you hundreds of miles. Do your homework. Another reason this list matters: sellers flake. It's not personal. Some just forget they listed the bike, some already sold it, and others are just bad at communication. If you're only banking on one bike and the seller goes silent, you're starting from zero. That list you made, it gives you momentum. Let's talk timing. Maybe your dream bike is just a bit out of reach financially, but another bike, one notch down the ladder, is available now and fits your needs 90% as well. Having that context, knowing what else is out there, can help you make a better deal, or at least prevent you from overpaying out of desperation. Think of it like shopping for a classic car. You don't just grab the first Mustang you see, you compare, you research, you wait for the right one to show up. Also, don't underestimate the power of walking away. If the bike you plan to see turns out to be junk, you can politely thank the seller, go back to your list, and move right on to the next one. No wasted trip, no regrets, no convincing yourself that a warped rotor or leaking fork seal is not a big deal. Your fallback bike is already on deck. You're not stuck. Ultimately, this list isn't just a set of options, it's your insurance policy against heartbreak. The motorcycle market is unpredictable, full of sketchy listings, no-shows, and last-minute surprises. Treat it like a job interview. Would you accept the first applicant who walked in the door just because they showed up? You'd compare, and when you finally find the right one, you'll know it's a decision, not a rebound. Coming up next, one of the most overlooked steps when buying a used bike and the easiest one to mess up if you show up alone. Number 4. Judge the seller. There's an old saying when it comes to buying motorcycles, you're not just buying the bike, you're buying the previous owner's habits. That's why judging the seller is just as important as inspecting the motorcycle itself. In fact, the person handing over the keys might tell you more about the bike's life than the odometer ever could. When you pull into the driveway, take a good look around. Are you greeted by someone who looks like they've been wrenching on bikes since the Reagan administration? Or is it a teenager in slides who can't find the title? You want the former. Ideally, your seller should be someone who talks about the bike like it's a member of the family, not someone who treats it like an old blender they're trying to get rid of. A well-kept garage says a lot. If you see neatly stacked toolboxes, oil rags that aren't soaked in sludge, and maybe even a few other motorcycles tucked in the corner, that's a green flag. On the flip side, if you see an oil-stained driveway, a can of chain lube from 1987, and a garden hose wrapped around the swing arm, it might be time to thank them for their time and move on. Communication is also key. If you had to message them 5 times just to get a reply, that's already a red flag. And when you finally meet, if their answers are vague, like, "I think the last oil change was sometime last summer," or "It runs fine, you'll see," you should be cautious. A good seller will tell you the mileage since the last valve check, whether the tires are date-coated within the past 2 years, and if the brake pads are still original. They'll either have receipts or a notebook full of handwritten maintenance logs. They'll be able to tell you where they bought the bike, how often it's been ridden, what modifications they've done, and maybe even why they're letting it go. And here's the thing, if the seller looks and acts like someone who doesn't even ride, that's another red flag. Ask simple questions like, "What oil do you use?" or "How long do you warm it up before riding?" A blank stare is your cue to walk away, because if they didn't know how to take care of the machine, chances are you'll be inheriting a maintenance nightmare. Also, pay attention to body language. If they seem overly eager to get rid of it, rushing you through the inspection, or constantly changing the subject when you ask mechanical questions, that's a sign they might be hiding something. A trustworthy seller will be patient, open, and willing to answer anything. They won't mind if you poke around the bike, ask for a cold start, or bring a friend along for a second opinion. Bonus points if they offer service manuals, original keys, spare parts, or even throw in a paddock stand. These are all signs of someone who took pride in ownership and wants to see the bike go to a good home. Just when you think you're getting good at spotting sellers, the next step is making sure you don't fall for the most common trap of all, misjudging a motorcycle just because it looks great in photos. Number 3, bring a friend. If there's one thing that'll cloud your judgment faster than a smoky burnout, it's raw motorcycle excitement. When you pull up to see a used bike that you've been eyeing for weeks, heart pounding, palms sweating, it's easy to overlook major flaws, weird sounds, or sketchy vibes. That's why bringing a friend is not just a good idea, it's essential. Especially if you're new to motorcycles, having a second set of eyes and ears can be the difference between a great deal and a financial disaster. Your buddy isn't emotionally attached to this motorcycle. They haven't been dreaming about the perfect blacked-out cruiser or pristine sport tourer. So, while you're imagining wind in your face and freedom at your fingertips, your friend is much more likely to notice that weird tire wear pattern, the half-rusted chain, or the engine ticking that's just loud enough to make you question it. Ideally, this friend should know their way around a motorcycle. Someone who's owned a few bikes, knows the usual maintenance schedules, and can tell a healthy clutch from a slipping mess just by feel. Even better, if your friend has their motorcycle endorsement and you don't, they can test ride the bike for you. Sellers are way more comfortable handing over the keys if they know someone can actually operate the machine. A licensed friend can evaluate how it shifts, brakes, idles, and behaves under throttle. They'll know if it tracks straight or pulls weird in a turn, or if the suspension bottoms out too easily. But even if your friend isn't a mechanic, just having them along for the test can keep your excitement in check. Think of them like your bike-buying co-pilot. They'll help make sure you stick to your budget, follow your inspection checklist, and don't get blinded by a fancy exhaust or fresh coat of paint. In some cases, your buddy might even notice how the seller behaves during your visit. If the seller's acting cagey or brushing off valid questions, your friend's spidey senses might pick up on things you're too distracted to see. Now, make sure to prep your friend beforehand. Let them know your price ceiling. Tell them what kind of bike you're looking for. Naked standard, cruiser, sport bike, or dual sport, and explain your expectations for condition, mileage, and potential repairs. That way, you're on the same page when the seller starts making promises or throwing in extras. It'll be much easier for your friend to rein you in if you're tempted to overpay just to take something home today. There's also a practical bonus. Bringing a friend adds a layer of safety. You're going to someone's house or meeting up in a parking lot. Having another person with you deters shady behavior and gives you some backup if things go sideways. At the very least, they can keep you company while the seller disappears to grab the title or takes 10 minutes to find the keys. So whether you're a first-timer or a seasoned vet, don't ride solo into a used bike inspection. A friend can help catch the problems, spot the lies, ask the right questions, and maybe even save you hundreds of dollars or more. Because sometimes the difference between a two-wheel dream and a mechanical nightmare is just someone to say, "Hey man, are you sure about this one?" Now let's look at a test ride tip that can reveal more than just how the throttle feels, especially once the engine's hot. Number 2, inspect it cold, ride it hot. If there's one step that'll separate you from the rookies, this is it. Always ask the seller not to warm up the bike before you arrive. No excuses, no exceptions. A cold engine tells you the truth. A warm engine hides it. Especially if the motorcycle is running a carburetor instead of fuel injection, the cold start reveals everything from fuel delivery problems to valve timing issues and compression loss. Here's how you play it. When you arrive, don't let the seller start it. Walk over and physically touch the engine cases. If they're already warm, they've been run. You want to feel metal that's as cold as the air around it, because that's when the real character of the machine shows up. If the bike hesitates to start, backfires, or needs constant choke adjustment just to stay running, you're already looking at future work. Don't ignore it. Those issues could point to a failing fuel pump, fouled plugs, old vacuum lines, or gummed up jets in the carb. Once it's running, listen closely. Is the idle stable? Are there any strange rattles, tapping, or whining noises coming from the engine? Pay attention to the tach. If the revs bounce or surge at idle, it may be dealing with vacuum leaks, a dirty idle circuit, or failing sensors. After the bike settles into its idle, check the exhaust. Any puff of smoke, especially blue or black, should raise a red flag. It could mean burning oil or an overly rich fuel mixture. Next, gear up and ride the bike. Not just around the block, get the thing warmed up properly. 10 to 15 minutes of ride time will get the oil circulating and expose any deeper problems. Find a safe route that includes a variety of road conditions. Use all the gears. Run it through a full power band cycle. Listen and feel how the bike shifts. Is there a notch in the gearbox? Does the clutch engage cleanly and release smoothly? Slipping clutches often won't reveal themselves until you're up in 5th or 6th gear, rolling on the throttle. When you brake, do it aggressively, but safely. Feel for any pulsation in the lever, which might indicate warped rotors. Soft or squishy feel could point to old fluid or air in the lines. Check that both front and rear brakes are biting evenly. Watch the bike's stability during hard braking. Does it pull to one side? Does the rear feel loose? These could suggest alignment issues, worn bushings, or suspension problems. Speaking of suspension, evaluate its behavior. Is the ride overly harsh or too soft? Bounce the front end and rear before the ride to test rebound. During the ride, feel how the suspension handles potholes, curves, and straightaways. Worn shocks or fork seals will make themselves known with vague handling, excess dive under braking, or rear-end hop over bumps. Don't overlook any noise or clunking from the forks or rear shock. That could mean blown seals or bottomed-out components. If something feels off, trust your gut. It's better to walk away than to ride home with a ticking time bomb. A proper test ride should answer your biggest question. Is this bike road ready, or is it just barely holding itself together? There's one more thing to look for, and it has nothing to do with the bike itself. Number 1, get the title right. If there's one thing that can completely ruin your experience with a used motorcycle, it's a bad title. Nothing kills the excitement faster than paperwork problems you didn't expect. So before you even think about the test ride, you need to get the legal part straight. That means checking the title carefully. The very first rule is simple. The title must be clean, and it must be in the seller's name. Not their cousin, not their friend, not some guy they bought it from. The name on the title should match the identification on the seller's license. If it doesn't, walk away, because once you hand over the cash and drive off with a title that's not in their name, you've just bought yourself a legal headache and possibly a bike you can't register. Next, let's talk about the kind of title. You're looking for a clean one, plain and simple. If the bike has a salvage title, that means it was wrecked so badly that an insurance company decided it wasn't worth fixing. Even if someone rebuilt it, there could be frame damage, alignment issues, or long-term problems lurking under the surface. A rebuilt title might mean the work was done right, or it might not. And you'll never really know unless you're tearing the bike down yourself. Bonded titles are another red flag. Those happen when the original title is lost and the new owner has to file a claim with the state, posting a financial bond to prove ownership. It's a long, frustrating process, and if there are ever disputes down the line, you could be stuck trying to defend your claim to a bike that legally isn't secure. Now here's the detail that trips people up more often than it should. Fill out the title transfer correctly. No scribbles, no crossouts, no colored pens. You use a black pen only, and absolutely no whiteout. The title is a legal document, and in many states, even a minor error means the whole thing is void. That means you've either got to request a new title from the seller, which is unlikely, or go through the painful process of getting a bonded title yourself. That's time-consuming, expensive, and lowers the resale value of the bike. Don't forget to check the vehicle identification number. The VIN printed on the frame of the bike should match exactly with what's on the title. Not just the last 4 digits, all 17 of them. If there's a mismatch, it could be a clerical error, or the bike could be stolen. Either way, don't risk it. Lastly, if the bike has a lien on it, meaning the seller still owes money on a loan, walk away unless they're prepared to pay it off in full and provide a lien release. Without that document, the bank still owns the bike, not you. Buying a used bike should feel like a win, not a trap. So if this guide saved you from a money pit, drop a comment below and tell us your story. And for more straight-shooting motorcycle content, hit that like and subscribe button and ride smarter every time.